So today is about making space, space to accommodate your feelings, space to acknowledge loss, space to breathe, space to recognize that your feelings are not weakness, they're human. We're going to talk about the weight you carry. These holiday seasons look different for us, right? Everyone who's going through during this season uh, feels a heavy, heavy weight. But we have a specific burden in 911 and public safety, frontline people, nurses, teachers, all the people who deal with people, deal with the public on a day-to-day basis. And it's that we're carrying their weight as well as our own. So today is about reminding you that you're not alone, that you deserve support, you deserve understanding, you deserve a place to heal. And that's what this workshop is for. So we have three speakers today who are going to talk to you and share with you about grief, about coping, about relationships. And I hope it's beneficial to you guys. I'm not sure if you all have access to put things in the chat. If you do, please do questions. We'll get to those. But we'll start with Maria. Josie, Maria, if you can hop on camera and let them know who you are. I will tell you guys, she's my cousin. She is an amazing, amazing woman of God. She's an amazing social worker who cares deeply, deeply for people. And that's why she's been invited to this session. Maria, you can take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brandy. I really appreciate it. So welcome, everyone. I hope you all can see me. I just realized that I did not have much lighting in this area, but if it is well, we will move forward. I did have a small presentation, but my computer went out, so I'm using my phone, but that is perfectly fine. So today, I just wanted to come just for a few minutes and speak with you all because I know Brandy shared with me that we're speaking about grief. And of course, this time of year, seasonal mental illness is a lot of things that we discuss when we talk about within the field. A licensed clinical social worker as well, and so I've worked with a lot of different individuals who have around this time of year is heavy. It's heavy. And so when we're talking about grief, there's several stages of grief. And so Kubler-Ross, she's one of the main ones that we know about her 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so she states that individuals, when we have a loss, when we experience a loss, it can be a loss of a loved one, it can be a loss of a relationship, it can be a loss of a spouse, it can be a loss of individuals who are in the nursing home. They've lost their normal state of life, what they normally have. So even individuals who have had amputations, where at one point they might have had a tragic event that occurred in their life changed. It changed completely. So grief is a normal emotion and feeling that we all have at some point. And this is what's very unique about grief. Grief is something that we all feel differently. We all feel differently. It does not have a time limit. It does not have a moment where, you know what? See, I've heard people say, that's been 5 years ago. When are they going to get over it? That's been 5 years ago, but guess what? Their life have changed drastically within the 5 years. Your life have changed drastically within that 5 year time. Maybe you had a caregiver that's no longer able to help you with your children and caring for your children. Or maybe you was married, you lost a spouse. And so now the income has depreciated throughout the home. So how am I going to take care of everybody? And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about these stages. So Kubler-Ross, she said denial. A lot of times we go through denial. What's going on? And so denial, it actually helps us manage the shock that we're feeling. It helps us manage that loss when it comes from we're in a place where I can't believe this happened. I know this didn't happen. What am I going to do now? And we try to do it, pretend as if it didn't happen. Sometimes we try to move on in life as if, you know what, that didn't happen. A lot of times it's compartmentalization theory and therapy. A lot of times we try to compartmentalize a lot of things that occur in our life as if it did not happen. And so we stay in that stage of denial as long as we can. And then after we become that place of denial and we begin to reflect a little bit and say, okay, you know what? I'm going through this. I really lost something dear to me. I really lost someone. This is happening. Now we're angry. We're angry. We're angry towards either a doctor, if it's a loved one that we lost at a hospital or something might have happened, we're angry against the doctor. If it was a relationship, we're angry against everybody who was judging our relationship. We're angry with the spouse that we divorced from or that we might have lost, or even a friend. Sometimes even friendships, we grieve friendships when we lose friends. We grieve those things. And so we're angry. We go through a state of being angry, where we're upset with everyone. So we're projecting that anger. That's a coping skill. We naturally have it, where we begin to project that anger towards any and everyone else that will take it, that will have it. And so then after we go through the stage of anger for grief, we go down into bargaining. And so that bargaining is a place sometimes where we feel a little guilty. Maybe if I had have done this, or maybe if I do this, that wouldn't have happened. Or if there's a way where I can change things, then I can easily make this grief go away, make these feelings go away. So we go to a place of bargaining. We and some of us who are, with our beliefs in Christ, we may bargain with God, bargain with Him. God, if you do this, I'll do that. Lord, I'll do this if you do that. Those are things, but it's a natural stage. Not that it's wrong. It's a natural stage that we're going through because guess what? Our Lord knows we're grieving. We're going through grief. He knows that. And so we're going through that stage. And then once we've bargained and we've tried to do all the things that we can to make ourselves feel better, and sometimes even with bargaining, that is when a lot of times we may turn to different things as well. When I say different things, for some people, it may be drugs, it may be other addictions, it may be several addictions. And even during that process, we begin to turn and start going to other objects or other things that make us feel better. And so after we get through that stage of bargaining, we finally get to one that we hear a lot, is depression. And so Kubler-Ross stated that in order for us to have true healing, in order for us to go through healing, at some point, actually, her and David Kressler, who went back and did some studying after her, and he created the 7 stages of grief, but they both say that depression has to take place at some point. So, what is depression? They say it's necessary. It's necessary for us to go through a state where we're feeling sad, where we're feeling empty. We have lost those lost feelings as I do not know what to do. Where does my life goes from here? We feel stuck. But they say that this is a process of healing. This moves us towards feeling whole again and feeling fulfilled. And then once we're depressed, we go into a place of acceptance. And so I've had a lot of people say, acceptance, do you mean I'm gonna be okay with this grief? So if I accept it, then that means I'm okay. Like, yeah, I lost someone close to me. My home might have burned down. Yes, there was a fire. I got to rebuild everything, but I accepted it burned down. No, it's not saying that you just accept what happened. Acceptance is a place saying, not only do I know that it happened, but I realize my new reality. I realize now what life looks like. I realize now what life looks like without my spouse. I realize now what life looks like as an amputee. I realize now what life looks like now that I'm in a nursing home versus being in my own space and in my own home. What life looks like now is that I actually realize when I step into reality is that I may not have those same friendships that I grew up with, those friends that I desired to be friends with for forever. And now I'm dealing with those loss of that strong relationship that I had. Because even a divorce, that person, it can still be here on earth, but now I realize that I'm not with them and I can still move forward in life. And so being at that place of acceptance, and those are some of the stages that we go through in grief. But one thing that I want to mention is that I know some people say, well, I feel like I've been in the denial stage for a long time. I feel like I've been in the certain stages of anger. But the unique thing about grief is there's no order for the stage. There's no particular order. You may go and say, you know what, I'm doing better now. It's been 2 years. You feel like you at a place of acceptance. But guess what? The holidays may come around. And now you go back to depression. Or now you go back to a place of anger. And you're angry. So those steps don't necessarily just go in order. Those steps can go in any way. So you can actually start off facing grief or facing loss in the depression stage. You skip the denial, you skip the anger, you skip the bargaining, and you go straight to a depressive place. And so I just wanted to kind of briefly just discuss those levels of depression and so that are of loss, so you all understand and know what you're going through, And I just want to empower you because you're not going through it alone. Each of you are here tonight because you might have lost something. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It can be your financial status in your home. For some individuals, it can be their health. It can be a change in their daily living that has changed, which has caused a loss. So I just encourage y'all today to know that you're not alone. You're going to go through the stages. It's a must in order to heal. It is a must for you to go through those stages of grief and loss. But there is help within those stages. There's help. There are answers within those stages, seeking out additional assistance when it gets heavy. I've had clients before I tell them, you know what? I know that the holidays are coming, but a lot of times when we reminisce, sometimes it will make us sad. But we think about those joyful things. What did mama love to do? Mama loved to sit around and sing, y'all. Let's sing a song. Let's unite together. Don't isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself. And even if it's a thing where, like I said, it can be different things where you may be in a place where your household look different, your finances look different. You can go back to to the closest thing in your heart that reminds you of it and do some of those things. Go to the park, go for a walk. Don't sit in it by yourself. Don't sit in your depression by yourself. Meditate. If you believe, if you believe in higher power, you believe in God, go to the Father. I don't know if she mentioned it, but I am a minister as well. And I believe that we must go to our Father because He sends the Holy Spirit, which comforts us. So making sure that we are going into our comforter. So that is what I would like to share with you all today. If there's anything or any questions that you all have, please feel free to ask. I just wanted to open the floor up as these wonderful young ladies come with the information that they have so that we can at least bring it out with grief, what it looks like, those stages of grief. It does not feel good, but there are answers. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate that. I think, and this is something that we find in dispatch a lot, is that dispatchers across the world, and I've asked a lot of dispatchers, believe that burnout is an inevitability. And some of the things you were describing in your description of the stages of grief felt like an overlap, right? So I think a lot of times we think that it is a burnout or all the way burnout, but it actually may be us carrying some grief, like grief from the cause or grief from our own life. Grief is grief, whether it's from our calls that we've taken or from our own story. So we're sitting at a console, we're already stressed in, already processing something personal, and then we have another hard call, and that weight multiplies. And it's not because you're weak, again, it's because you're human. So burnout looks like exhaustion, looks like irritability, looks like numbness, looks like loss of motivation. A lot of that sounds like some of these stages and steps of grief, and there may be something you're grieving. So we have to understand that we may think we're burnt out from this workload, but we may have unprocessed grief from every part of our life. So that's why today matters, because we're finally taking the time to acknowledge what your mind and your body have been holding on to for years, behind the desk and on that headset and off the headset. Thank you so much, Maria. That was so helpful, and I pray that someone was able to just understand, like, okay, so what I'm feeling is normal, what I've been experiencing is normal, that hopelessness that I feel is normal, that anger that I feel, the why, Lord, I want to scream to the sky, is normal. These are things that you should experience, but you don't have to experience it alone. And so I want everyone who's on here just to know that the 911 Chaplain Initiative is here for you. We're here for you in your grief. We're here for you in your celebrations. Like, let me know when you get your EMP. Like, let me know when you get your certificates. We want to celebrate with you, but we also want to be there for you through these difficult times. So next we have Janae. So Janae, if you can give them a brief introduction of who you are. And y'all, Janae, when I tell you, shares so much 911 stuff. And I love it so much because, that's all I think about and talk about is 911. So I'm so grateful to have you here, Janae, if you be willing to come on.
Yes, hello everyone. Good evening. I am Janae. As Brandy said, I am a marriage and family therapist in the Middle Georgia area. So I see individuals, families, couples, just whoever really needs support. Um, I firstly wanted to say thank you for inviting me. When I first found out about this, gosh, I guess it was like 2 or 3 months ago. I don't know what word I was trying to say, but I became interested because it's such a real area that does not get talked about enough, and that does not get enough support. Um, just in the brief couple months that I have been, learning more about the experience of a 911 dispatcher, it can be heavy work, and especially now during the holidays. Um, which is already heavy in itself without the added role of the compassion fatigue, taking on other people's trauma, taking on the heavy calls and all of that such. So I just wanted to say thank you that for even inviting me so that I can be a support in this space and just continue to learn. Um, and yeah, so I really just kind of wanted to touch on, Maria did an amazing job of kind of adding some language to experiences and all of the different stages of grief. And so now it's like, what do we do with that, right? And so as I said before, the holidays has a way of putting a spotlight on that. Maybe it's a trigger with the call, and or it's even at home. It shows up during the holidays, and it doesn't come alone. It's layered. For a long time, I didn't understand grief as a relationship, but it most definitely is. Um, it's an ongoing bond with someone or something that you've lost. Um, it can be a sense of safety, a person, a thing, just as Maria was stating, all of the different areas that grief can show up. Um, it's a relationship. And that also means it can show up differently in how people respond to grief. Some people, they have a desire to be closer to other people. Some people isolate. Some people become quiet. Some people become easier to anger. Some people look fine, but on the inside, they are sad and they are just totally broken. And so with the stress of being a 911 dispatcher, it only magnifies this. You are expected to stay calm and stay sharp, stay in control of the situation to a certain degree. But grief and being triggered, it doesn't follow that same structure. And so what do we do with that? Um, I have 3 points. So the first one, name what's real. It's there. Be able to identify it. Create that space to identify that it's there and happening. It's not something that can be suppressed. And oftentimes, if we try to suppress it, it's going to show up in other ways. And also, just understanding that if you do name it, that's not a sign of weakness, but it is aligning with what you need in that moment. Um, yeah. And so the second step I would like to say is permission. People grieve at different speeds. People become triggered from all sorts of calls, and it can look differently for everyone. You don't have to support, you don't have to understand someone else's grief to support them. You don't have to understand your own grief. You don't have to understand maybe if you were previously at a stage of acceptance, but then a trigger has put you in a stage of denial or anger. It just needs permission to exist because it's here. Um, and it just needs permission to exist in this moment. And then the third step I would say would be co-regulation. That's a more clinical term, but it's basically, in short, is that we can calm each other. Mm, um, um, that's where the relationship comes in. Sharing each other's nervous systems, just simply being close to someone in itself can be calming. And we calm each other. And that's important because you all have been trained with the honor to be a regulating person on calls where people are enduring some of the most traumatic experiences of their life. Um, and so now you also deserve that same support. So um, to code to yeah, that is important. And we can regulate each other and we can calm each other. Community can be that space of, even if you don't understand what's happening, you're just there. Um, and just to understand that grief doesn't go away. It doesn't necessarily get easier. It's a constant journey. And you're constantly navigating all of these different parts of grief. You are constantly um, being triggered, and you're constantly learning your triggers. You may even learn new triggers as time goes on. And so it's just a constant journey of giving yourself permission to have these experiences and understanding that people are there to support you and people are there to love you. I mean, you have the 911 Chaplain initiative that has an app coming, and that can be a space for support. And then there's other coping skills of just take a walk outside. Sometimes the fresh air can help, the sun can help. Eat a meal that can have like a restorative memory. Do a memorial. Um, Exercise is super helpful. But just continuing to immerse yourself in experiences. Maybe you can write a letter. You can journal and reflect on experiences. But there are so many ways you can have space to experience these emotions that are coming, and also enjoy the memories that is shared as well. So that is really all I had, and hopefully it can help at least just a single person.
Thank you so much, Janae. I think that was beautiful. I'm telling you, what really struck me was that co-regulation, right? And that's something I feel like I want to learn more about because um, we do that, like you mentioned, with our callers. We're the calm voice in the chaos, to use a cliche, right? And my little devotional is called Calm in the Chaos, whatever. Okay, but we're the calm voice in the chaos. We are the steady person. When they're screaming, we're steady. When they're hysterical, we're steady, right? And we know that our repetitive persistence and our calm voice calms our callers, right? So we co-regulate callers every day. We steady someone in panic. Our calm becomes their calm. Our breathing slows, and then theirs follows. That's all co-regulation. And I think a lot of times one thing we do is we lend to others what we're not willing to ask for ourselves. And a lot of times dispatchers, like there's this thing, it's a saying in dispatch, and it says, when in doubt, send them out. So we don't hesitate. If it seems like you're in distress, I'm gonna get you some support. But we don't do the same thing for ourselves. And so this is something I employ, or I ask all of the people who are participating, you know, think about how you serve your community and make sure that someone's pouring into you. You know, we co-regulate them. Who is your space, safe space? Who is the one that speaks to you and calms you down? You know, what do you do? She mentioned exercise. She mentioned listening to music. You know, even being outside. I go on my porch and it calms me down. But think of those things that causes your nervous system to settle, right? To your system to settle back down. And that was just really great. Thank you so much, Janae. And I'm so honored. Like I say, I see you sharing dispatch stuff. And it's not even my dispatch stuff. Like you're paying attention to the industry, and we're so grateful that there are clinicians who are interested in not just our hurt but our healing. And I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much. Okay. Now I don't know if the attendees can ask questions or not. If y'all can ask questions, let me know. If you can raise your hand. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand. I think y'all have that option. Let me know if you do. But we're going to move on now to Reverend Edie. I'll let her introduce herself, and she can get started with her section of this training.
Hi, I'm Reverend Edie DeVilbiss, Reverend Dr. Edie DeVilbiss, and it's my honor and my privilege to be the director of the 911 Chaplain Academy. I was in 911 back in the 20th century. I was there for about 17 years, and I went on to become a clinician, and then I became a pastor and have served as a chaplain for a number of years. And so I've dealt with a lot of stuff. So I'd like to share my screen. I put together a few slides. I actually do a workshop on grief, and I just pulled some of those slides up. And there's a way to make this play. Okay. What I teach is that we have a framework called ACT. First, we need to acknowledge, accept, and I forgot the third A, and I'm covering it.
Allow.
Thank you. Acknowledge, accept, and allow. I knew it. So we need to acknowledge what's happened. We need to find a way out of that denial phase. And that can be a journey. When we lose somebody that we didn't see every day, it's easy to think that they're not really gone. Or if they travel in their work, it's easy to just ignore it and pretend that they're just a phone call away still until you go to the phone and try to call them. The thing with grief is that it echoes. So every time you experience a new grief, it echoes back to all the other griefs that you've experienced. And so, in one sense, it gets heavier the more things that you lose. And in another sense, because you've experienced it before, you know that you get through it. Grief never quite goes away, but instead of being like waves coming at you, crashing you and drawing you under, it becomes a background noise. And every now and then it crashes. Sometimes grief is like walking in a sloppy gardener's garden where you step on a rake and it slings up and hits you in the face right between the eyes. So acknowledging that it exists is the first thing, and accepting the reality of it, and then allowing our pain. We have to really be able to accept that it is painful. And grief is the common denominator we all have. We all feel it. And it's different for everybody. It's the most universal and the most individual experience that we all have. We all experience grief and it hits us differently. but allowing ourselves to feel the feelings. And by feeling the feelings, one of my therapists taught me that you let the feeling show up in your body, because feelings really are feelings. Like when you stub your toe and it hurts, that's a feeling. Grief is a feeling. And you feel it and notice where it is in your body and allow that feeling to stay instead of trying to push it away. And the thing with our feelings is that they can't last for more than about 90 seconds without re-triggering the feeling. And so when we allow ourselves to let that pain go through us, nobody wants to be in pain. But when we are consciously choosing to allow the pain, then it can go away. Now, it might come back again and again, and you might experience that over and over again, but eventually it fades and it's not as overwhelming. Now, with grief, the next section is care and communicate and connect. Grief is just love with no place to go. We care for each other, we communicate, and we connect. I don't know of any time that I've ever gone through grief alone, where I was the only person who was affected. Even the grief of moving to a different location. I've experienced grief because we changed our CAD system and I lost my competence. Any kind of loss can trigger feelings of grief, but we don't go through it alone. So there's somebody that you know who's probably experiencing grief over the same thing that you are, or just grief. There's somebody near. So you care for yourself, you care for the other, and you communicate with other people about it. Be willing to talk about it. Be willing to listen about it. When someone else is willing to share with you their grief, honor them by listening to them. Connect over that grief. We deeply desire human connection. We're hardwired for human connection. And so when we spend the time to care about each other and to communicate about it and create that connection, grief can have this unexpected gift of building relationship and building connection across. It's a bridge across our divides. And the T in ACT, oh, yeah, I wanted to go through this. What do you do when one of your colleagues is wrecked? When one of your colleagues is in grief? When you are in the center and you've got this life-saving work to do, and something happens and you have a colleague who is just not able to keep it together, don't think that they're weak. Think that they're in grief. One of the most powerful things you can do without speaking is just simply put your hand on their shoulder and stand there. You don't need to say they're there, because that tells them that it's time to stop crying. You don't need to hand them a tissue. That has the same message. Just stand next to them with a hand on their shoulder. If you have the latitude to be able to do that, that's a really powerful thing to do. It says, I see you, I accept you, and I'm here for you. And if somebody has the grace to do that for you when you are overwhelmed with grief, that is a gift beyond measure. One of the things we can do is a brief meditation. I think we have time. If you're willing, I don't know if you're in a safe place to sit and take a breath and either close your eyes or have soft eyes, but breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. And let that breath go on as long as you can let it go on. Clear those lungs. Turn your thoughts inward, scan from head to toe, and notice how your body feels, where you're holding tension. You don't have to fix yourself. You're not broken. Just notice what you're feeling in your body. And as you return to normal breathing, use the power of your imagination to recall the joy of being with what you've lost or who you've lost. Recall the good feeling of being with that person or that feeling of competence. And when you've discovered that feeling, I want you to pay attention to where you feel it in your body and see how long you can hold that feeling. Just breathe normally and think about that joy and re-experience the joy for as long as you can. And when the feeling fades, go ahead and notice your toes. You can wiggle your toes. Notice your nose and open your eyes and come back to presence. You can refeel that joy, and it can help your mood to get better. It can help you feel better in the moment. That's not to deny the ugly feelings. It is to retrain your brain to feel good when you think about that event, that person. When you re-experience that sensation of what was good and right and joyful, you retrain your brain and make that be more what you look at. Now, when you experience the pain, you can do the same thing. Breathe through it, feel the pain, and let it go. But when we're conscious about creating more joy, more love, more gratitude in our lives, you can do the same thing with gratitude. You can be grateful for who they were, or you can reinvigorate that sense of love that you felt with that person. So much of grief is grieving our possible future. It's grieving who we are with that person, who we have been with that person, and grieving that aspect of who we are, because we're different with every person, right? Not a huge difference, but a little different. And the things that made you laugh with them can be no more. And so we grieve that. It's so multifaceted, and it's such an experience that we have in common. Time does heal, but we don't know how much time it takes. That's the T in ACT, is time. Now, clinically, if you are still unable to make it through the day after it's been a year, maybe a year and a half, you probably want to start thinking about seeing a counselor if you're not already doing that, because something is stuck. Time heals only when you do the work of mourning. And the work of mourning is feeling those feelings and acknowledging the pain and feeling that sense of loss. It can be so painful, but there is joy. We get to celebrate the years that we had with our people. We get to celebrate the love that we have for them. We get to celebrate that we still have love to give to others. Now, as communities, we come together to acknowledge our pain and to work through our pain through the rituals. The funeral is an incredible ritual that really helps us process pain. We come together, we sing the songs, we listen to the sermon, we hug each other. It's never going to bring them back. But it's like period to the sentence. So we can have rituals around people, around the loss. We can create traditions to memorialize or to acknowledge a loss. That's funny. I had a story about traditions that escapes me now. We can create memorials, which are talismans of things that honor a loss. Like if we had a line of duty death, there are different things we can do. Up in Fort Worth, one of their training centers, they have a police car that the community came together and wrote messages of appreciation to the officer whose unit it was who died on duty. And it's a beautiful honoring of that officer's life of service. So we honor people through the things that we do. I know of one agency that has a fun run every year. I know of another agency that has a wellness center dedicated to an officer who completed suicide. So there's different things that we can do that help us to get through it and come together as a community. Extreme grief can be a community building experience if we are open and honest about it. But when we have the audacity to look down on people who grieve, to not accept that it's hard, and sometimes we don't have control over the tears. When we shut people down when they talk about the dead. I read a story of one workplace that a woman lost her child and had the child's picture on their desk. And when it had been a year, her coworkers came to her and said, well, it's been a year. It's time to take that picture down. How awful is that? And you don't get over a loss like that. Not in a year, not ever. You get to where you can live with it. And that's the best you can do. So I don't think we have any good way to communicate. So I'm not going to ask what questions you have. But if you do have questions, send me an email. Let me see if I can. Oh,
Yeah, if someone has any questions, they can raise their hand, and we can unmute their mic so they can speak.
there we go. Questions, concerns, problems, or hallelujah?
Okay. And again, you guys can can email us, or I'm going to probably send out the video to everyone who signed up. So you can always reply back with questions. Do you have another slide, Reverend Edie?
I thought I stopped sharing.
Okay, I was just making sure I saw another slide pop up. I wasn't sure. Okay. Um, so just checking. We'll wrap things up. I just wanted to be sure. So thank you guys so much, everyone who stayed for the duration. Again, I'm gonna send out the the video recording of this session. Just so much wisdom, so much knowledge that was shared. It just reminded us today that grief is just not one moment; it's a journey. Maria helped us see the stages and movement of grief, how it rises and falls, and doesn't stay in a straight line. And Janae reminded us that naming what we feel isn't weakness, it's courage. We talked about co-regulation. Then Reverend E took us into a deeper truth. The work of mourning matters. That line just really just hit my heart. The work of mourning matters. I don't think we think of mourning as having work to be done, but it is work that we do to heal. It's not quick and it's not quiet, but it's healing. Right. And she mentioned that time tends to torn places. There's an analogy I use when I talk to people about grief often. And I always ask this question. I say, have you ever woke up in the middle of the night with a Charlie horse? And it sounds like a weird question, but many of us have woken up with a Charlie horse, with your leg cramping, and it wakes you out of your sleep. And it is the worst pain of your life. And no matter how you move, it gets worse. If you sit still, it gets worse. There's almost nothing you can do in that moment to take the pain away. But somehow, over time, your muscles begin to relax, and you're still sore and you're still tender, but they relax and you can rest again. But when you get up to walk the next day, you're sore and you're limping and you're a little sore because, oh my goodness, the pain was so tremendous. And when you think back to that night, even though as time goes, the pain softens and softens, and then sometimes it may be imperceptible. When you remember that night, when you remember that pain, you remember it as the worst pain of your life. You remember it waking you up out of your sleep. You remember not being able to rest. You remember not being able to move and get relief. You remember that feeling. And I often associate grief with that same kind of scenario. When it happens in that moment, it is so painful. It is the worst thing you could imagine feeling. And somehow over time, it becomes a memory of the worst thing that you can imagine feeling. And as Reverend Edie said, time tends the torn places, right? And so I always say that, one day the wound will become a scar, but a scar is still a scar, right? Something painful is painful, but it also can produce beauty. So I just want to thank you guys for your call, for calling in. I thank you for just being open enough to listen, to hear, to call in for your centers. I want to thank you for the love that you give your callers, the love you give your centers, the love you give to people in their worst moments. That capacity that you have to give is not a burden, it's your gift. Your grief has shaped your compassion. Your experiences have sharpened your empathy, and your heart is stronger than you think. So I want what you learned today or what you've heard today. I want it to sit with you. I want you to be able to apply it, that you deserve space, you deserve healing, you deserve care, you deserve community, you deserve co-regulation, right? You deserve someone to calm you down. Reverend E said we don't grieve, we very rarely grieve alone, and it's so true. It is a almost communal experience that we all deal with in all different ways, as we've learned tonight. So we just want to give grace to each other as we grieve, grace to each other as we experience life during this holiday season. It can be tremendously heavy. But if you don't get anything from these 52 minutes, get that you are not alone and you don't have to handle it alone. If you start to feel that it's depression, if it starts to feel like this has gone on too long, escalate your care. outsource your pain. There's somebody equipped who can walk with you, who can support you through this. So we just want to thank you guys so much for coming. I'm trying to see if there are any questions before, because I do have a toddler who's trying to break into my door. Okay. I don't see any questions. So I just want to thank you guys again. I will be sending the recording out. Does anyone on the panel have any final words?
I do. Know that you are loved and that you do not walk this walk alone. This season can be so hard and it can be so joyful. So know that you're not alone. We love you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you guys soon. I'll be sending this out to everyone who registered. So if you are watching this on a recording, we love you too. And thank you guys. Thank you so much, Reverend Edie, Maria, Janae. You guys have been a blessing. I know I've taken notes, and I'm gonna apply a lot of the things that was said tonight to my own grief. And I'm just grateful for you guys. Maria, did you have anything you want to say in closing?
Just as the young lady just said, most definitely knowing that you all are not alone. And thank you. I want to most definitely say thank you because I've learned so much about dispatch tonight. And Janae, she really opened up with a great perspective, and she said, I had to learn more about it. And so even in the work that you do, there is secondary grief, there's secondary trauma. But again, you are true heroes. And so thank you for being those heroes, even in your darkest times and in your darkest moments. I appreciate you for answering that call, answering the phone. I know I've had to call 911 before. Just don't know who's on the other line, but they said help is on the way. So even when you was distressed, even when you was distorted, your life was falling apart, you sent help. So thank you so much. And you are loved, and you all be blessed.
Awesome. Thank you. It does feel good to hear that from somebody outside of it. You guys are my heroes. All right. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.